Hello and welcome to this Jolly Phonics training. My name is Dan and I work for Beyond Ourselves Zambia, and we are doing the Jolly Phonics training throughout the Copperbelt region for the last 6 years, and now we are looking to expand and move on into other provinces around Zambia, but also beyond Zambia itself. And we know that there's people that tune into what we're doing on Facebook from other countries as well that are also interested in transitioning their learners into English literacy. And so that's where our focus has been on. We're using a program called Jolly Phonics, and Jolly Phonics teaches English literacy using these 42 letter sounds, and it's about teaching those sounds to learners to make sure that they learn the sounds, learn how to pronounce the sounds, learn what they look like and how to form them correctly, but then it's about then applying that knowledge and developing the skills of blending to be able to read, sounding or segmenting to be able to spell or write words, and then also looking at those words that don't quite fit the mold, those words that aren't easily decodable and where you have to learn that part of that word is trying to trick you. So you have to memorize a small part of a word or learn the rules for those words. So we've had 3 sessions, or this is our 3rd session rather. So the first session was looking at an overview or an introduction to Jolly Phonics, with the second session then looking at the theory of the first 5 steps of a Jolly Phonics lesson. And today we're going to be looking more at what does that look like practically. So we're going to have a live lesson demonstration. We've got a video from a colleague in Zambia called Matthews Loloji, and he's going to be doing some lesson demonstrations. And then we've also got some other videos along the way from other teachers that have submitted videos. So just on that, we're really on a journey to try and make sure that teachers throughout Zambia know how this program works and know how to deliver it effectively. And so when we've done a training, generally we do a 2-day training in a district, and teachers can come along. Teachers will be given, as part of the course, they will get a copy of a book, and it will either look like this one or this one, depending on what resources we have available at that time. And that resource will take learners through how to teach the Jolly Phonics program. And it will be a 2-day training, as I said. Usually that means that we can go in depth into how to play the different games or activities, all of the different steps of a Jolly Phonics lesson, and just really making sure that teachers are equipped to be able to deliver English literacy through Jolly Phonics effectively. So Jolly Phonics is an internationally known and respected program. It's been used in countries throughout the world. But what we found is that when we started using it with community schools in the Copperbelt, we felt that actually it was not as effective as it could be because there were these cultural barriers that were in the way. There were things that when learners were looking at it, it wasn't quite relatable. We also felt that we needed to contextualize it in terms of looking at the curriculum and how it fits into the curriculum. So what we've got and what we've done is really kind of looking at the Zambian curriculum as well. So the resource that we've got here at the moment, so Jolly Phonics Teaching Aid, this is for the 2013 curriculum. So this is looking at grade 3 learners and how to transition grade 3 learners. But a lot of that is applicable to where we're looking now also, which is grade 1 learners. So with the 2023 revised curriculum, we've actually got a new publishing of this book. So it's no longer going to be called the Teaching Aid, but it's going to be called the Teacher's Guide. And that one is aligned to the 2023 curriculum. So if you're looking at this video and you're thinking, well, how does it fit in with where I'm teaching? If you are going into this new school year with this new curriculum, if you're a grade 3 teacher, then Jolly Phonics Teaching Aid, this is what you want to get your hands on. Okay, this is how to deliver it at grade 3 level. But many of those same principles are going to be the same for learners that are looking at moving into English literacy at grade 1 level as well, because the Jolly Phonics program really is about helping children get that initial literacy so that they can know the sounds of English and that they can apply their sound knowledge of how to pronounce sounds, how to form sounds, and they apply that to blending and segmenting or sounding to be able to read and write words initially. Once children are able to do that, then they can better access the PLP program, and that which kind of has a bigger focus on vocabulary and kind of fluency in reading as well. Okay, so as I said yesterday, we were looking at the first 5 steps of Jolly Phonics and a Jolly Phonics lesson. And so there we were looking at the 5 steps. Let me see if I can just share this on the screen. So let me put this over here. So what we were looking at is we were looking at the steps of a Jolly Phonics lesson. So if you are teaching a Jolly Phonics lesson, what are the things that practically you need to be doing with your learners? So let's have a look at this screen here. And here it comes. There we go. All right. I hope you are joining us again for a second day or third day. Let me know where you're joining us from. You can message us in the comments. It's always great to see people tagging their colleagues along the way to make sure that nobody's left behind. So the screen that I'm sharing right now, what you can see on here is that we've got the skills of a Jolly Phonics and the steps of those lessons as well. Okay, so the skills of Jolly Phonics, these are the things that we want learners to be able to do in order to gain literacy, initial literacy in English. So they need to be able to know the sounds. They need to be able to pronounce the sounds. Okay, they need to be able to know how the letters are formed and how to write them effectively. And then, as I've said before, then it's about applying that knowledge to blending, which is reading, and sounding, which is the same as spelling words or sounding words out. And then in addition to that, the 5th skill that we look at is tricky words. So words that don't quite follow the rules, where we need to do something extra. So we need to learn which parts of the words are trying to trick us and which parts are decodable. And the way that we're going to develop these skills, so this is where we're going. We're developing these skills, but the way that we're going to do that is that we're going to take these steps. This is like, if this is, the skills is where we're going, this is how we're going to get there. Okay? So the steps we're going to do to get there is we're going to be thinking about, when we're teaching a new letter sound, we're going to start the lesson with revision. We're going to be then, well, when we're revising sounds, we're going to be thinking about practicing those sounds that we need our learners to focus on. And then we're going to be looking at how we introduce the next sound, which is going to be done through a story. And that story doesn't need to be long, just needs to be quite short, sharp, and to the point, but it needs to do some key things. It needs to introduce the sound of the day, and it needs to introduce the action as well. But there's other things that we can do through stories as well, including vocabulary, and just kind of getting the children's interest at the beginning of a lesson as well. Then the story, as I said, it introduces the action as well, so that's step number 3. And then after that, you can also teach the song, the Jolly song, to your learners as well. So that really, learning the Jolly song is kind of just a consolidation of the story, the action, and practicing the sound. So that's a really memorable way of doing that. And then the last step that we looked at yesterday was letter formation. So this is basically the same as handwriting, in making sure that learners know how to form each letter correctly, thinking about the size of a letter, thinking about the starting point, thinking about the direction that it goes through, and talking that direction through. And then there's just a lot of practice, making sure that they're getting it right. But practice, we said before, practice doesn't always make perfect, because if you're practicing the wrong thing, it just means that you're cementing the wrong thing. So we say practice makes permanent, because whatever you're practicing, that's what you're making, I guess, permanent in a child's skill set. So if you're getting them to practice the wrong thing, you've got to really be careful that you're not leading them astray. Okay, so let's crack on with today's lesson, today's session, and we're going to be looking at this video here. Okay, so I'm going to be coming in and out of the video as we do this, as we watch it. But do let me know. We're going to be quite interactive today. I'm going to be asking questions along the way. So please do make sure that you're watching this and that you're watching it with your fingers on the keyboards and with your fingers ready to answer some questions. Okay, so maybe as we crack on, let's look at the first step. So the first step is going to be sound revision. So before Matthews gets started, okay, I'm not interrupting him, okay, but before he gets started, what are the key things? What's the purpose of sound revision? Why do we do it? What's valuable about it? How long should it be? These are some of the key questions let's think about. So if I can see lots of people are saying where they're coming from or where they're joining from, and I think it'd be really great if you could also just interact with these things as well. So as well as telling me that you're following, how long should sound revision be? Like if the lesson is, let's say the lesson is 40 minutes long, how long should the sound revision be? Should that be 20 minutes? Should be half the lesson? Because that's what we see sometimes. Is that the right way to do it? So if you're on your comments now, it's always great to see those interactions. So it's great to see some typings going on right now. Yeah. So some key things that we're looking out for here is that the sound revision should be actually quite short. It should only be a few minutes long. Okay. And then once you're doing the sound revision, the key thing really is that you're focusing on practicing those sounds that your learners struggle to pronounce. Okay, those sounds that your learners are having most difficulty with. And so if you remember, we talked about this yesterday in our theory, but these are the sounds, and maybe let me hold this up to the camera here. So these are the sounds. There's 42 sounds that we initially teach in Jolly Phonics. And so the sounds that we're going to be wanting to focus on when we're bringing learners from literacy in Zambian language to English is that we're going to want to focus on those sounds that are new or different as learners are going from one language to the other. So if you think about that, what we highlighted yesterday was, so the letter I in Zambian languages makes more of an E sound, whereas in English it should be nice and short. It's a short vowel sound, so it should just be I, I, I. And the letter U, in Zambian languages it makes an U sound, but it should be an A, A, A. And A is very similar. So actually, if you're practicing A, you should maybe also think about A to make sure that they're getting it right between those, that your learners are distinguishing between those two sounds. Okay, so let's have a look at Matthew's video, and I think we're going to see some fun things here. Okay, so over to you, Matthews.
We are going to make the Jolly Phonics lesson. I'm going to demonstrate how you can follow all the 8 steps in the Jolly Phonics lesson. Class, I'm going to show you some letter sounds, and I want you to tell me what sounds they make, what the letter sound is. Are we together? You are my class, I am your teacher. Okay, what letter sound is this? Nice.
Sorry, did you get that? Did you hear what he said? He said, you are his students and he's the teacher. Okay, so you can join in at home, but I want you to think about this. This is the practical of how he actually does this. So watch how he's doing these sounds and make sure that you join in as learners.
Who can tell us the action? Beautiful. What letter sound Give it a try. Well done. It is oh, 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 oh. Now, the next time I'm going to show you the flashcard.
What you'll notice here, what he's doing is that, do you see how when he's doing the flashcards, he's also doing the action? And that's really important, because if you think of our learners, yesterday we talked about how learners don't all learn in the same ways. We don't all develop knowledge in the same ways, but actually there's different kinds of learners. So there's visual learners, there's auditory learners, there's readers and writers, and then there's kinesthetic learners. And basically, none of us are just one kind of learner. We might all have one way that we relate to most and how we learn most easily. However, it's really effective that when you've got flashcards and you've got actions and you've got the auditory going on there as well, you're actually appealing to all of those learning types. So really good that when he's doing his flashcards, he's holding them up, but we're also doing the action as well, and we're saying the sound. Okay?
I want you to look at it, think about it, think what letter sound it is and what sound it makes, and then talk to your neighbor. Afterwards, you give me the answer. Find out if your neighbor is also having the same answer as you are having. Go together? So I want you to look at it, think what letter sound it is, talk to your neighbor, and then try to give me the correct answer. You can do that, right?
So that's what we call think, talk, share. And this is a really valuable tool to use as a teacher. He's not just, well, an issue that we get often in classrooms is that we get a teacher who holds up a flashcard and then the fastest learner puts their hand up and then calls out the answer. And then everybody else in the class just copies what the fast learner said. And the problem with that is that you're getting one child really to do the thinking and everybody else is just mimicking. And mimicking doesn't really lead to making those connections in the brain for long-term memory, okay? So what we've found is that we want to make sure that all learners are engaging in this a bit more. And what puts some learners off is knowing that it's always going to be the fast children, the fast learners that make the answer. So sometimes lots of children think that they don't need to bother. So think, talk, share is really simple. It's really easy to implement in your classroom, but it's also really effective. So it's about, rather than getting children to put their hands up straight away or allowing children to call out, you say, at first, I'm just going to give you an extra 2 seconds to think. And so you hold up the flashcard and it's like everybody think. So nobody's got their hand up, nobody's calling teacher, teacher, but it's just everybody's just got that extra couple of seconds to think. Okay? Once they've had thinking time, then you give them an opportunity to talk to their neighbor. Now what this does is that there's some learners who are just not confident of their answer. I think we've all been there probably. Maybe you've been in church or you've been somewhere else where somebody asks a question and you think you know the answer, but you're not. You don't want to take the risk of putting yourself out there and getting the answer wrong. So it's safer to just let somebody else answer the question. And so what we're trying to get past is that if you've got an opportunity to think of an answer for yourself, but then you talk to a neighbor and your neighbor has the same answer as you, then that gives you a bit of a boost of, oh, maybe I am right. And then all of a sudden, it's like, well, maybe I can do this. And it encourages children to participate more effectively. So think, talk, share. Watch out for the other times that Matthews does this.
What letter sound is this? Look at it. Look at it. Talk to your neighbor. Talk to your neighbor. Nice. Who's ready to share the answer? Okay, yes. You pretend you're licking a lollipop. Well done. Also this one, what letter sound is this? Don't rush to give the answer. Talk to your neighbor. Talk to your neighbor first. Well done. What letter sound is this? Wonderful. coming out of the bowl. Here's another one, simple one. We have made this one. What letter sound is this? Yes. Ah. Ah. Well done. What letter sound is this? E, 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 E. Nice. And the last letter sound that we are going to show one another is, what letter sound is this? Talk to your neighbor. Talk to your neighbor.
I hope you're noticing this as well. Do you see how Matthew's, because he's doing revision, and do you remember that we said the purpose of revision is to revise those sounds that your learners most need to practice. So that's where he's gone for. He's got the short vowels. So he's gone to practice the a and the ah. And he's doing the actions so that learners know the different ones. But also what I like about this is that, did you hear that he said, like licking a lollipop? It's that extra little reminder of, you know, this is the action, but the action is related to the story. Oh, and the story helps us to remember the sound as well. So all of those things support one another to help learners cement these sounds in their long-term memory. Okay?
This side, I want you to keep quiet, and then this side, I want you to give me the answer. The whole of this side, yes. So this is called targeted listening. You can do it in your class. Depending on the size of the class, you can do targeted listening.
Targeted listening is such a valuable thing. So let me talk about this first, and then we're going to watch this video from a teacher in Central Province. So this is a teacher that's on the journey to becoming a trainer. So targeted listening is this. When we do chorusing in our classrooms, often it's a case that we'll have children that are just calling out a sound. And if you remember, it might be that they're just mimicking the sound of the person next to them. And maybe they're getting it right, but maybe they're not. And often you might find in a whole class situation, if children are all trying to do the same action, so let's say this one, this is a bit tricky, yeah? Ah, ah, ah. If you've got class trying to do ah, you'll have some learners that are going ah, 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 and they're saying the sound for letter A, ah, when they should be saying the sound for letter U, ah. And there is a very subtle difference, but actually it's important that as a teacher, we're trying to listen out for whether children are getting this right or wrong. And that's the key thing here. So I want you to watch this teacher here. So he's going to be doing targeted listening by, actually, he's just going to get a portion of the class to talk at one time, or to make the sound at one time, and he moves around the classroom to make sure that he's able to kind of tune in to what the learners are actually saying. Okay, so watch how he does it. I really like it, and then add any comments along the way.
And the action is it. Again. Again. Okay, so therefore this group banging sound in our action. Again. Okay, this group did. Again. Okay, here. Again.
This game is about killing the fly.
All right, so we got carried away there. Yes. So let's go back to me. So yeah, did you see what he did there? He moved around the classroom, and because he was moving around the classroom, getting small parts of the classroom to say the sound one after the other, it meant that he was actually able to tune in and listen to which children were getting it right and wrong. And he was able to identify those learners that were getting it wrong, and then actually be able to then intervene and help them to say the sound correctly. So that is think, talk, share. And then we also looked at targeted listening. And those are really helpful to use as when we're doing flashcard revision, okay? Yesterday, we also talked about other games and other activities, so songs as well, that can be used to help practice sound revision. So this is you again. Can you let me know what are some of the other ways that we can practice sound revision when we want our learners to practice the sounds that they're finding difficult? So what are some of the games and activities that we can use, or songs? So this is your chance for your chat again. Let's see what we've got coming in. I know some people were a bit slower joining us. Zambia is undergoing like continual network and Zesco issues. So well done if you've managed to join us live today. I know that sometimes the live numbers are quite small, but we end up getting several hundred joining us. And sometimes I think the first video's got like 2,000 views now. So we are part of a bigger movement, but today we might just be a few. So you're going to have to join in and be as vocal as you can if you're joining us live right now. But yeah, so we've got Come and Dance is always a good song. Go Fish. Yesterday we talked about a few others, if you're remembering those as well. So yeah, so lots of using actions. As you're holding up flashcards, as you're practicing, you can use actions and you can get your learners to remember the sounds through that as well. You can mime an action so that your learners then have to say what the sound is that accompanies that. That's always a good way to revise. Okay, and then we also talked about Hunt the Sound. Yeah, that's good. We talked about Hunt the Sound, and we talked about Go Fish, where children are kind of reaching out and taking sounds out of a bag. And then we've also got songs like Do As I Do, and this game that we're about to watch here, which is the Fly Swat game. So yeah, somebody's just mentioned that as well. So let's have a look at this video here. So this is a teacher from the Copper Belt, and this is in her classroom. This was filmed a while ago, so this was actually filmed kind of around the COVID time, which is why you see more face masks going on. Okay, but this is the teacher. She starts off by actually kind of explaining how to play the game. So let's just go to that. Okay, let's watch the end of this one.
Again.
This game is about killing the fly. So the game goes like this. When I say the sound, it means that's where the fly is. You quickly find the sound on that banner and hit that sound. It means that's where the fly is. The fly has started flying. Fly has started flying. The sound.
Okay, so with sound revision, the key things are that it just needs to be a few minutes long. So maybe even 4 or 5 minutes, 3, 4, 5 minutes long. So, and you're focusing on those sounds that your learners need to practice. And you can use songs like, if you hear your sound come and dance, we saw that yesterday. You can use songs like Do As I Do. That's a great one where you just hold up different flashcards or you do different actions and you get your learners to respond and dance and clap and sing. But the key thing is that you're revising those sounds that your learners need to practice. So as a teacher, you also need to make sure that you're doing that continual assessment of your learners. What are the sounds that they are struggling with? Because you don't want to waste your time. Like, your contact time with your learners is quite precious, especially if you've got a short window of a day. I know that many schools in Zambia, government schools, often you're sharing a classroom with multiple classes over the course of a day. And so your contact time actually might just be 2.5 hours. And if that's the case, then actually you want to make sure that you're using that as effectively as possible. So don't waste time rehearsing or practicing sounds or revising sounds that your learners know already, but focus on those ones that they're struggling with. Okay, that's the purpose of sound revision. But there's lots of games and activities. If you're struggling for ideas, then number one, come to one of our trainings and you'll play these games live. Okay, the best way to learn these games is by doing. But if you can't do that, or if you can't access that, then you can follow us on Facebook. You can look at the videos that we've got online. You can look at our videos that we've got on YouTube, and we've got some other resources out there that will help you to learn these games as well. Okay, so step number one, sound revision. Just short and sharp, but focused on the sounds that your learners need to practice. Step two then is the next part of the lesson, and that is introducing the sound story, and along with that is step three, which is introducing the action. Okay, so again, coming back to you guys, what are the key things that we want to be practicing when we're doing sound story? What are the key things that need to come out of that part of the lesson? How long should it be? What do we want our story to focus on? How can we make the story more memorable for our learners? And how do we introduce the action? So again, write some comments. Let's see what you're thinking. I know that many of you that are joining us live, you're seasoned Jolly Phonics teachers. So that's always great to see how others can learn from your knowledge as well. Okay. So as those are coming in, maybe let's watch some of this video and see how we get on. So this is back to Matthew's and the sound story.
Now we are going to hear a story. I'm going to tell you a story, and I want you to pay attention to the story that I have for you today. All together. Nice. Amy has got a bang in the ear. One rainy day, Amy woke up and all of a sudden, she could not hear properly on one side of her ear. The ear was in pain, and Amy could feel the pain in her ear. Every morning, her mother woke her up. Amy, it's time to go to school. Amy could not hear anything. All she could do was, the mother was like, Amy, are you okay? Can you hear what I'm saying? All she could do was, The mother told Amy to say, go to school. After school, I'll take you to the clinic. Amy had to run through the rain to reach school. At school, again, Amy could not hear what the teacher was saying. All she could do was, and the teacher told Amy to visit the clinic. Just like the mother said, Amy and the mother, they went to the clinic. The doctor checked at Amy and found out that there was a maze in Amy's ear. The doctor removed it and Amy was fine. Amy, you don't need to shout. I can hear you. That's the end of the story. From the story, what's the name of the girl? Amy. Nice. What was the weather like on that particular day? It was raining. What did the doctor find in Amy's ear? Maze. Well done. Now, we are going to pretend we are Amy. We are going to get our hand and put it around our ear and say, Get it?
So that's Matthews telling the story. Great stuff there from Matthews. So what was some of the things that he did that made it an effective storytelling? Okay, So let's point some of these out. I can see that some things have come in already, but yeah. Number one is that you saw that he didn't read the story. Sometimes we see teachers that when they get a Jolly Phonics teaching aid, and maybe I should say this first of all, that the Jolly Phonics teaching aid has got in it, for each sound, there is a story and there's an action. And that's really to help make sure that your learners have got those, it's really memorable for your learners, okay? So there is a story and there is an action for each sound, and they're all available in the Jolly Phonics teaching aid. You can also find them in the Jolly Phonics app. So again, we looked at this yesterday. There is a Jolly Phonics app. It is free to download on the Google Play Store, and it has got overviews of each of the lessons. But what you will notice is that in the Jolly Phonics app, it was written for the UK market. So it was written for British children. And therefore, some of the stories are less relatable for your learners here in Zambia. So when we looked at creating the Jolly Phonics teaching aid, we were really focused on how do we reduce those barriers for our learners in Zambia. We wanted them to be able to relate to the story. And so that's why they've got familiar themes and concepts for learners in Zambia. Okay, so he didn't read the story from there to his learners. Instead, he read the story ahead of time. And it's just, let me show you this story one more time. If I show you here, it's really, so this is the story here, just this bit here. So it's really short. It's basically 4 or 5 sentences. And it's short so that the teacher can read it and then think, okay, this is the story I'm going to tell. And they can then embellish it or add to it and make it more interesting. But what we saw from Matthews is that he did really well to make sure that some of those key bits of language were included in the story. So he talked of going to the main market. He talked of Amy and it being rainy and that there was a pain in her ear and that there was maize that was found in her ear. Okay, so he got those A sounds in, and they're not all spelt the same AI. So Amy is spelt with a letter A, but it's getting children familiar with that sound and able to see if they can identify that sound in the story. Okay, so he told the story, and what's good by him telling the story rather than reading it is that it means that his voice was animated. It means that he was animated as well. He can move around a bit more. He did the running in the rain. He did things like that to make sure that that his students were engaged with that, because children want to see the story being told. They want to. That's why televisions. We've all seen that. It may be even with ourselves as adults. If there's a TV on in a restaurant, or if somebody's got their phone, it's kind of easy to kind of just be watching the TV. It's quite a visual distraction. So can we engage our learners by also being that visual distraction, getting them to kind of focus on us? So telling a story, it's short, it's animated. If you can bring in props, bring in props. It didn't really work for him to kind of bring in a doctor for this one, but maybe he could have brought out a piece of maize as well. But we want to make sure that we're engaging those learners in every way we can. He also asked questions. So you can ask questions along the way. So you can say, like we did this yesterday with the snake story. So you heard saying, well, what do you think it is in the grass? Or have you ever thrown a stick for a dog? So you're getting your children to relate to the story, and that's really, really important for them to remember this long term. But the other thing that he's doing is he's asking comprehension questions at the end, and that's just to check their level of English and understanding as well. Now, if you're doing this at grade 1, we would recommend that you also use some local language to make sure that your learners are understanding the story, because the key thing is, from the story, you want to make sure that the sound and the action come out and that they're memorable. But if the children aren't really understanding what you're doing because you're just talking in English and their English isn't good enough so that they can comprehend what you're doing, then you want to use a bit of a mix of, you want to use code switching, you want to use both English and Zambian language in those instances. Okay, all right, let's carry on.
Again, A. Well done. Today, class, we are going to learn the letter sound A. A. Look at it closely. It is made up of 2 letters.
So this is really tricky because, well, what he's doing here is that he's introducing the A sound, and it's a digraph, right? So children, for the first time, the A sound, where it is, it's the first time, oh, you couldn't see that there. Let me hold that there. Can you see that now? Let's do this. Yeah, so the A is the first time that we're using a digraph. And what's important there is that your learners will have come across this letter already, and they would have learned that this letter sound is A, and then they would have learned that this is I, but you're telling them for the first time that when these two are found together, they make a new sound, and that's the sound A, and you're introducing it to them like that. So that's a tricky concept to include. So let's carry on with our video.
They are together, and when they are together, they are making one sound, and that sound is A. Let's play action together. A. Again. A.
Okay, so far we've looked at the beginning of the lesson. We've looked at, you're going to revise the sounds that you've been taught for a few minutes, and then after that you're going to introduce the new sound of the day through a story. Again, that's only 2 or 3 minutes, or well, actually maybe a bit long, maybe 5 minutes at the most, because you're also introducing the sound of the day and the action. Okay, so then now we're going to be looking at the next step of that, which is the Jolly song.
Now I'm going to teach you a song for the sound of today that we have learned. The sound of the day, and I'm going to teach you a song for it. Together, I know some of you like singing along. I know some of you are going to go back home singing to this song I'm going to teach you. Okay, now the words in the song are: my ear hurt, I was in pain. My hair hurts, I was in pain. My ear hurt, I was in pain. What did you try to say? That's how it goes. Can you try that again?
Okay, so you'll see there that what Matthews is holding is he's holding his phone, and that's because these Jolly songs are also found in the Jolly Phonics Lessons app, okay? So if you have the app, then you've got all the lyrics to the songs. Again, remember that some of the stories we've needed to change so that they fit Zambian context better. And when we've had to change the stories, there's been times that we've needed to change the songs as well, because the songs are a reminder of the story, and they get us to practice the sound and the action as well, okay? So if you've changed the story, you need to change the lyrics to the song as well. But we've got the song lyrics in the Jolly Phonics Lessons teaching aid, so that's where you'll find the lyrics as well. And we've also got examples of the backing tracks of those songs as well. But it was really good to see Matthews teaching the lyrics of the song before our learners are expected to start singing. And you'll see this in this other example that we've got from a teacher in Mufulira.
My ear hurt, I was in pain.
So let's just fast forward that. There we go.
My ear hurt, I was in pain. What did you try to say?
So we said our sound for today is what? And this is how it looks like. Yes. Why once again? Yes. Okay, and our action is it? So no back for I mention so therefore move feature much we are becoming white. Yes. I can't be why my words and my yet. Did you ever hear? Did you ever hear? Achani? Did you ever hear? A big bus. A big bus. A big bus. A big bus. Did you ever hear big bus? A big bus. A big bus. Did you ever hear big bus? Like this. Yes. So, did you ever hear a bee bus? A bee bus. A bee bus. Like this. Yes. So, now, Larisha, move konkumo, move first, and then we'll sing along, right? Did you ever hear a bee buzz, a bee buzz, a bee buzz? Did you ever hear a bee buzz? Like this. One what? Yes. And tueshe kwa kuimba first? Yes. Alena chani? Did you ever hear a bee buzz, a bee buzz, a bee buzz? Did you ever hear a bee buzz? Like this. Move na futi. Kuimbe mwanambai. Did you ever hear a bee buzz, a bee buzz, a bee buzz? Did you ever hear a bee buzz? Like this. So you need to buzz along, right? Yes. Like this. Let's sing without the radio first. Achani. Did you ever hear a bee buzz, a bee buzz, a bee buzz? Did you ever hear a bee buzz? Like this. Again. Did you ever hear a bee buzz?
So it's really great to see in this video that the teacher is using a mix of English and Zambian language to make sure that her learners understand what's happening in the song, but she's also encouraging the learners to make sure that they're doing the actions as well. So the purpose of the song, let's remember this, the purpose of the song is a reminder of the story. So that's why they need to know the lyrics and understand how the lyrics relate to the story. It's also to help them to practice the sound of the day and practice the action that accompanies that. So it's a really effective way of practicing all those things. And it's a really short song. It's not a really long song, but once children know the songs, then you can actually practice all of these songs just at quiet moments in the lesson. Let's say you're getting your learners to line up. You can actually just start off by going, did you ever see a bee buzz? And then your learners will just join in. And it's a really effective way of remembering things. I don't know if you've heard this before, but you might have a favorite book that you read again and again, but how much of it can you memorize? Whereas if you think of your favorite song, actually a lot of those song lyrics we can memorize, because when you put a melody to something, it makes it really impactful, and it helps us to make those long-term memory connections. Okay, so that is story. So let's crack on to the next part of this, which is letter formation. So letter formation, what are the things that we're looking at? Okay, think about what's the important part of letter formation. This is the part of a lesson where we are thinking about handwriting. We're making sure that our learners can write these letters correctly. So what does letter formation look like in a lesson? How long should it be? What are the key things that we need to make sure that our learners know about? How are we going to practice that? And how are we going to make sure that they've got good handwriting as well? Okay, so think about those things. Think about why they're important. Let's see what you've got in your comments. And then let's maybe watch Matthew's, and then I'll respond to some of your comments.
Okay, class, I want you to look at this letter sound that we are learning today. Take a look at it. It is made up of two letter sounds. It has got A and it has got E E, they are together now, and they are making one sound. And the sound that you are playing, that they are making is A. Together, A. So when you come across this letter sound, and when they are together like this, they are making one sound, which is A. Let's try to write them. Let's try to write them. Look at the first one. Is it a tall letter, small letter, or four letter? Well done. It's a small letter. And where do you think is our starting point when we are writing this one? Is it the top line or middle line? Great. It is the middle line. Well done. Okay. Let's try to write them. We'll start with this one. We'll go at the middle. We'll go around, up, down, flick. I'll write it for the second time. At the middle, around, up, down, flick. Let's try to write this other one. We'll go at the middle, down, flick, dot. Write it for the second time. At the middle, down, flick, dot. Let's write it for the third time and find. At the middle, down, flick, dot. Nice. I want you to stand. With me. We're going to write using our body parts. We're going to start with our elbow. Point your elbow at my elbow. We're going to go at the middle. We're writing this one. At the middle. We're going to go. Oops, sorry, I dropped my card. At the middle. Around, up, down, flick. Nice. Let's try to write this other one. At the middle, down, flick, dot. Again, down, flick, dot. Let's write using our waist. We're starting with this one.
I think I'm actually going to stop and save you from that. If you've been to one of our trainings, when we do the writing with the waist, it always, I'm not sure it comes out best on video here. But what did you see in the way that he did this? What were some of the things that we liked? What were some of the important things that we want to stress when we're doing this? So I see a few comments talking about a tripod grip. So let me have a look at this again. So we did talk about this yesterday, that before we kind of start talking about letter formation, it's good before learners kind of start writing with a pencil or a pen that we want to talk about tripod grip. But once they've got it, then we don't need to remind them every lesson. We don't need to teach it every lesson, which is why Matthews doesn't teach it today. But it's about, the tripod grip is about holding the pencil with 3 fingers. Tri means 3. Okay, so it's like we pick it up. You pick it up with your thumb and your first finger, and you let it sit on that gap there, and then you use 1 finger underneath to support it. Now, lots of people in Zambia use 4 fingers. That's not a big problem, but what is a problem when people write like this, or people write like this? I've seen somebody, I don't know, I had one child that tried writing like this one time, and it just meant that everything was really untidy. But yeah, for the best dexterity, it's kind of recommended that you use the tripod grip, which is these 3 fingers, which is also looking like they call it the froggy legs. And so that's like the legs of a frog. Okay? So yeah, so talking about that, talking about correct posture was mentioned. Great. What we saw with Matthews is that he talked through the size of the letter. He talked about where the starting point of the letter was. And then really, again, just reiterating the direction. So talking that through so that, again, we're appealing to all those different kinds of learners. They can see it, they can hear it, and then they can actually do it as well. So those are some key things there. Okay, so I think, yeah, we've got another one, a teacher doing it with her class as well. So let's have a look at this video then together, and then we're going to be finishing up after that.
Sounds. Is it a small letter, a tall letter, or a 4 letter? Small
maybe let me just explain. She's doing the letter W right now. I know that sometimes you're like slant, but yeah, she's doing the slants of a W. So slant down, slant up, slant down, slant up. Okay, I'll let you carry on.
Go, sit, right, stand down, stand up, stand down, stand up. Again. So we're going to write one and make sound. We're going to write this sound. So we'll start from where? B to right. Go. Stand down, stand up, stand down, stand up. Again. B to right. Stand down, stand up, stand down, stand up.
Okay, so that takes us to the end of our videos that we've got, but let me just revise a few things. So basically today we were looking at how to teach those first 5 steps of a lesson. Okay, so the first 5 steps that we've got, we're going to start off with sound revision, and that means that we're going to be just a few minutes focusing on the sounds that our learners need to practice. We're going to be concentrating on those that need revision. And there we're going to start off by using flashcards. And when we're doing flashcards, we're going to be using think, talk, share. That's making sure that all of our learners are engaging. We're not just calling on the ones that are the quickest to put their hand up or to call out an answer, but we're giving everybody a chance to think and get the answer to themselves, to talk to a neighbour and get some confidence of, oh, they've got the same answer as me, okay? When your learners are talking to their neighbour, that also gives you as a teacher an opportunity to go to maybe some of those slower learners and talk to them and help to encourage them in finding the answer as well. Okay, so think, talk, and then they share their answer with the class. Okay, and then we're also going to be using targeted listening, making sure that we're not just chorusing with our whole class, but actually we're moving around the classroom and listening into our learners as they're saying the sounds. Are we able to check whether learners are actually saying the sounds correctly or whether they're just mimicking the sound that they're hearing next to them and not getting it right? Okay, so we're going to use flashcards, but then we can also use other games and activities. You can use songs like Do As I Do, Come and Dance. You can use games like Go Fish, or even the Fly Swat game. Okay, and there's other games like Hunt the Sound as well. So there's some other games, and there's more games out there as well. But we're going to start off with just a short revision period focusing on the sounds that we need to practice. After that, we introduce the new sound of the day through a story. It's a short story that we're going to tell, not read. We tell it so that we can be animated, so we can gesture, so we can act things out or get learners to act things out. And we make sure that we're doing those things so that it's really getting embedded into learners. If it's memorable, then learners are going to remember it more easily. And then we're also going to make sure that we've got comprehension questions coming along. But the main emphasis of the story is that it introduces the sound of the day along with the action. So that's number 3, is learning the action as well. And that really helps to be a physical reminder of the sound of the day. Then number 4 is that we're going to teach our learners the sound, the Jolly song. And so the Jolly song really is a consolidation of all of those other things. It's helping children to remember the story, the action, and the song, and the story, the action, and the sound of the day. And that song is usually only like 5 or 10 seconds long. It's not a very long song, but you want to make sure that you're teaching it so that your learners know the songs, the words correctly, and that they're able to get the sound correct as they're doing the song. And then the last part of what we're talking about today is the letter formation. And so letter formation really is the handwriting part. And that's where you might start with showing them the flashcard, but then you're going to be talking about writing this as well. So you want to show them what the sound is first, and you might do that with a card. You might write it on the board, but then after you've done that, you're going to get your learners to learn that. So a good way to do that is by doing it in the air. And so if you're doing that as a teacher, you might want to do it in the air. If you're doing it in there and you're facing your learners like I'm facing you, then I need to do mirror writing. I need to write it backwards. So I need to go down, up, and over. Okay, and so I'm making sure that I'm getting it right because I'm looking at this flashcard and I'm going to go down, up, and over. So I'm making sure that I'm getting it the same way on my flashcard. If you find that difficult, then you can do what the teacher did in that other video, which is that she turned her back and then she did it the right way around for her, but she was with the same orientation as our learners, so it looked right for her learners as well. The only issue with that is that maybe sometimes if you've got your back to your learners, one, they can't hear you as effectively, and two, you can't see whether they're following what you're doing effectively. Okay? And then after that, you're going to practice letter formation by doing some of those other activities that you've kind of written about. So let's see what you've got here. So we're going to get them to do writing in the air. We're going to get them to do writing on the desk, writing on each other's backs. Yesterday, people were talking about writing in rice or a tray of flour. That's always a good idea as well. But you're going to get them to practice letter formation. And then finally, you're going to get them to write it in their books as well, because we want to see how they're doing this in their book. Okay, so that is the first part of the lesson demonstration. I hope that was really helpful to see how these things can flow from one to the other. It doesn't take very long, and the good thing is that it's the same pattern in each lesson, and you can change, you can change which songs you can do, you can change certain activities, but you always start with sound revision for like 3 or 4 minutes. Then you introduce the next sound of the day through a story. Again, that's about 4 or 5 minutes. And then you're going to teach the song, and that doesn't take very long. And then you're teaching letter formation. So all of those things don't take very long. But as you get more and more used to this, as you go through all of the sounds, you get better at delivering each of those sections. So the last thing to just say is that we really do want to make sure that when teachers attend a training like this, they're not just listening and saying, oh, that sounds good, but they're actually implementing this training. So we're really keen to make sure that we're giving you avenues to make sure that you are getting better at being good implementers of Jolly Phonics. So if you are watching this and you think, yes, I'm going to try using Jolly Phonics, number one, you do need to make sure, like you do want to get hold of one of these books, because these books really, it goes through all of the activities, it goes through all of the steps. So each one that looks like this, it's got all of the steps of a lesson laid out so that you can help, so it can guide you through delivering the Jolly Phonics lessons. So that's number one. But then also, we want to make sure that you're doing it right and that you're implementing it correctly. So we're encouraging you to send us videos. So you can send us videos through Facebook or through WhatsApp as well, and we'll make sure that the numbers are available for that. But if you send us videos, what we can do is that we start up a folder for you that's like a TCZ folder. And we will watch your videos, we'll give you feedback on what you're doing well, what we like that you're doing, and then we'll give you feedback on maybe how you could be more effective in your teaching and delivery of Jolly Phonics. And the idea of that is that as you get to a point where you're showing us that you are teaching the skills of Jolly Phonics effectively. So if you remember before, we had a look at this page here. Oh. So if I go over to this one here. Yes. So these 5 skills that are on the far side, okay? So learning the letter sounds, letter formation, blending, sounding, and tricky words. When you show us that you are teaching letter sounds effectively, and that's by completing certain tasks, sending us a video of how you're doing sound revision, showing us how you pronounce the sounds, but then also seeing how you are delivering a sound story. So when we see those things, we can say, yes, you are teaching that effectively, and we can send you a certificate, and that's a certificate of completion. So therefore, it's worth 15 CPD points. So if you are looking for CPD points and you want to make sure that you're not in a place where you're scrambling around to make your total that you need, then we really do recommend that you, as you implement Jolly Phonics, you send us videos, and you could get advice so that you're even more effectively delivering Jolly Phonics, but you could also earn TCZ certificates and CPD points, okay? And then what we're then doing is that those people that are showing that they are really good at delivering Jolly Phonics, then we help them to become mentors within their district, and then we even take some of those people onto a journey to becoming a trainer of others. So if that is of interest to you, let me just encourage you that as the new school year kicks off, that we want to see how you're implementing this in your classroom. I hope that's exciting for you, because this is a really impactful program. We have seen learners make 2 to 3 times the progress using Jolly Phonics over the existing programs. And that's been really exciting for us, and we've seen massive improvement, not just in schools, but in districts, and even kind of in the Copperbelt province is continuing to be up there as a standard. So we're really excited for that, and we're excited for how this can also unlock potential in your classrooms as well. So, the future is jolly. We hope you're excited for this. We're glad that you could join us today. We hope that you're going to join us again tomorrow. Tomorrow at 20 hours, we're going to also be looking at the next steps. So we're going to be looking again at blending and sounding and tricky words. We're going to be looking at how to deliver those parts of a lesson, the theory behind that. And then on Thursday, you're going to see some more videos of how to deliver those parts of a lesson as well. Okay? Thank you very much for joining me today. Do follow us on Facebook. If you've enjoyed this, talk to your friends, talk to your colleagues about this, and let's make sure that everybody